What's up, gorgeous? I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to another episode of the Fierce Framework, where we talk about becoming fierce through messy action, baby steps, and cultivating your confidence. I'm your host, Mary Beth. I'm an ADHD kid with a dream to see more women living lives that we're excited about. I want to see us breaking out of the mold society tells us we're supposed to fit into and start living life more on our own terms, where we're in line with our values, we're pursuing our purpose, and we're making our dreams turn into realities. So, if that sounds good to you, then you are going to love this episode. Today, I want to talk about all about how you can start over whenever you want. And the new year is such a good reminder. It's such a clear, prompt, if you will, to remind us of the potential and the possibility and new beginnings and fresh starts and all that good stuff. I'm not a huge calendar girly, I will say. But I'm really getting swept up in it this year, and I will say I think a lot of it has to do with my planning workshop, right? I did it last year and absolutely loved it. So we are doing the second annual Plan Your Year workshop. And so it's definitely top of mind. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you've been hearing me talk about it. And really like just using the opportunity of January and a new year to kind of get in that mindset of thinking, forward thinking, and asking, like, what do I want this new year to look like? What things are important to me? What priorities do I want to make sure are staying at the top of my priority list? What values do I want to like integrate more into my life, right? And spend more time and energy on? What things do I want to let go, right? You don't have to wait until the new year to do any of these kind of things. And you don't have to do it at the new year, right? Like I've definitely had a couple times where I've had to take a step back and be like, do I really want to like get sucked into this and like jump on the bandwagon of like, oh, new year, like let's talk about goals, let's talk about doing new things and like no 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 because it's like you don't really have to wait or do it right during the new year. You can stop and start over at any point in time. But it's a convenient time to talk about it, so I did let myself get sucked in and that's what we're doing. But I just want to remind us like if you're not in that season, that's totally okay. Bookmark this episode and listen to it later, right? Or listen to a different podcast, right? Like live your life. Um, or if you're listening to this at a different time of year and you're wanting to start over and you're wanting to try something different, you can start over at any point. The new year is a great like collective reminder. And I think there is something cool about the energy of like a lot of people considering possibilities and new beginnings. And I think there's a lot of like positive energy that that brings that's really cool, especially like on a collective scale. Like that's something we don't talk about a lot because America is so individualistic. But I do think that that is really powerful and really cool. And it doesn't like everybody's on their own path, right? So it's not everything is always going to happen when everybody else is doing it because that's not a thing. Everybody isn't doing one thing. Not everybody's not on the same page always. I don't want to start talking in circles here. But so yeah, I do think it's powerful. I think it's a great opportunity, right? I love the reminder that it's a new year, it's a new beginning, like a fresh start. I love that. And I want to remind us that like we can do that for ourselves kind of whenever. One of the things that I've learned about doing something new is it's much more like a journey of changing routines and habits than it is like a one-time decision. And I do think there are both. But more often than not, like for myself, I find that there's a decision to change, and then it's followed up by the continual, where you're reinforcing that decision by your actions and the choices that you're making every day, right? So if I'm choosing to start journaling every day, I make that decision that like this is who I'm going to be and this is what I'm going to do now. And I get to decide every day if I want to act on that or not, right? So if I make a big decision and I'm like, hey, I'm journaling every day now, but I don't actually do it, We didn't actually change, did we? No. But usually, with like a positive change, something that's like aligning with your values, it's usually intentional, right? Like sometimes we find ourselves doing things that we didn't really plan on doing. And so I'm not saying you can't build a habit on accident, because unfortunately you can. But I think so often, like the positive changes and the things that we are intentional about, right? Like we make a decision to make that change. And then we follow that up with the daily routines of reinforcing that decision or not. Right. So the more I actually journal every day and do the thing, the more I'm reinforcing that and following up on that decision I made January 1st or whenever that I'm going to journal. So that is something that I think is really cool too about the concept that like you can kind of start over whenever or you can start something new whenever because it's really more powerful than the day that you decide to change is all those days after when you follow up and you put behavior and you put action behind that change. I can say and decide all I want that I'm going to change my life and do XYZ, but what's really powerful is those action steps and those little steps that I'm taking every day and every week and every month that's actually reinforcing and like shoring up and bringing into reality that decision, right? Because there can be sometimes a big gap between like what we decide and what we want and what we're doing. So yes, the decision is important and sometimes like making that decision can really flip something in your brain and like really help you get behind it and like empower that action. And sometimes the decision is easy and it's like, okay, and where the work really comes in and where the like power really comes in is when you start taking the action to implement that decision. So it's one of the things I want to highlight, like from this illustration, is that regardless of when you make that decision, whether it's January 1st or whether it's February 6th, right? Like it doesn't matter the day you make the decision. What matters is every day after that, that you are honoring your decision and you're putting action behind it. And so, what is more important than whether or not you decide to change your life on January 1st is how many days after that did you do the things that you told yourself you were going to do? So if you make a huge like deal, a huge decision, you're changing your life, whatever, on January 1st and you don't take any action, that is not as powerful as choosing a random day during the year and putting action behind it. So that's one of the main points I think I'm trying to make here is like it's not about the day, it's about what you do with the decision you make, regardless of what day you made it. Okay, so January 1st, great reminder, love it, love the energy. I'm jumping on the bandwagon. Here I am talking about it, right? And what really matters is those like micro decisions that we're making behind that original decision day in and day out after. Once you decide you want to do something, how are you implementing that into your routine? How are you bringing that with you? If you are deciding to journal more, right? How are you setting yourself up for success? Do you have a journal, right? Or are you going to get to January 2nd and be like, ah, crap, I don't know how to journal. You're like, all right, well, I already missed I didn't even do it the first day, so I might as well give up, right? Do you have the tools and resources that you need? Do you have time? Do you have a place to journal, right? If you are constantly rushing out the door and then you're going to work and you don't have a journal there, or maybe you can't journal at work, what are you doing? Right? Are you waiting until you get home? Do you have a time? Do you have a place? Do you have a journal? And so all these things, like we can consider these things and set ourselves up for success and start working it into our routine, right? So maybe when you get home after work, or maybe you keep your journal on your nightstand, right? And it's like when you're in bed before you're falling asleep. Or it's, maybe your morning is not crazy and it's when you're waking up and you're having your coffee or during your lunch break or what, like whatever it is. But there's so much power in working those like micro decisions, how you're implementing that goal into your everyday routine? And how are you going to make this something that you're able to do and that you're like reminded of and that is able to be like top of mind so that you're following through and doing that thing? And some of the things that are really powerful is like, I think it's James Clear talks about it in Atomic Habits, or maybe Tiny Habits is a different book. I forget that author, sorry. Anyway, somebody talks about how important it is to have a time and a place. And I have found that really powerful for myself, which is crazy because like, well, my life has become a lot more routinized than it used to be. But like I have a spot on my couch that I journal because the armrest is like it works out and I like kind of like journal on the armrest and I keep my journal like out. It's like it's right there on my desk right now. Um and so it's handy and I can grab it and I set a timer and I have like I journal for a few minutes and sometimes I go longer and sometimes I don't. There's been days when I just write the date down, okay? Like it's not perfect. But like those things, I have a journal, right? It's handy. I can see it. I have a visual reminder which helps with the ADHD. But now that I'm doing it too, like I have a reminder on my phone. I put journal prompts in my phone. Like all these things, the more we're like giving ourselves tools and like reminders and supports to really implement those things, the more likely we are to build them into our routine. And I think that building them into your routine is where you win because that is when you're starting to make the choice a reality, right? Because the choice is important and that's like getting your mind on board, right? And making the decision to do something. And this is the kind of person I want to be. And then you following through with the action is where you're literally making that dream and you're turning it into reality. You're making it happen. You're making it come true through your action. So then the important question is not about the choice, but it's about how am I going to make sure I can take that action day in and day out so that can become this person. And it's pretty, in my experience, it's pretty similar for the flip side too of like, what do you want to let go? Right? So like the bullet point questions I have for this are what do you want to hang on to into the coming year? Like what do you want to take with you or even start fresh in the coming year, right? Like what do you want to have in 2026? Like what daily things are you wanting to work into your routine so that you're making progress towards XYZ goal, whatever that is, journaling, writing a book, maybe, right? Maybe all this writing is for a book or drinking more water or checking in with yourself or building a business or like whatever it is, right? How are you working that into your days so that you're making regular progress? Even if it's baby steps, it's progress. Too often we wait until we have like this huge chunk of time set aside and we want to take like this big leap of progress. And so because like that's what we're focusing on, we're waiting and we don't take baby steps in the meantime because we're waiting until we have a big enough chunk to like really make a difference. And unfortunately, if you're anything like me, that happens way less than you would like it to, okay? In my experience, I made so much more progress by taking little baby steps day in and day out instead of waiting for one big chunk of time where I could take a big leap. And so, speaking from my experience, that's why I'm hyping this up so much. Um, Also, like I was saying, on the flip side, right, of like implementing things is also what do you want to leave in 2025? And one of the things I love about this topic, right, is you can also do that whenever. You don't have to wait until the end of a year to let go of things that aren't working for you anymore, right? To let go of relationships that are damaging, that to let go of situations that are like stifling your will to live. Like you can let things go whenever. And you can like see how hype I am about this. I am so into letting go. You can call me Elsa. Um, it's honestly changing my life. That's why I'm so like giddy because I used to do so much because I thought I had to. And now I do like so little. Sometimes I feel like I don't do anything at all, which is not true. And then my coach jumps in and she reminds me, she's like, you're doing all these things. And I'm like, okay, okay, okay. I guess I'm not lazy. Um, but yeah, like, because when you let go of things, it gives you space, which we underestimate the power of just space and having like time and capacity because whew, breathing room, right? Like I just took a deep breath even saying that. Um I think that that is really that's having that space, right? And it's like space you naturally want to expand, right? Like natural, like this is the hand motion. It's like you need space to be able to pause and take a breath and then expand yourself. Like, what are the things that you want to expand? So often, like, we just don't have room. There's so many things that we want to do, and we don't have room. Or even when you do take a beat and you think about like your values versus what you're spending like your time, money and energy on, money and energy on, you're like, oh, these don't align at all, right? But having space allows us to even notice that, right? And then also to be intentional about what we want things to look like going forward. So I think letting go is so powerful, A, to just create space, but then B, to also, you have enough space to start filling that with things that are more aligned with your values and what's important to you and where you want to go in this life. Um, so yeah, you definitely don't have to. I mean, it is December 31st, right? I think by the time I put this podcast out, you definitely don't have to wait till the end of the year to let things go. Let it go. Let it go now. Let it go. Drop it, whatever. um, okay, let me get off the soapbox. But it's also something that we can work that it's a decision that needs to be made more than once so often because a lot of the time letting go and unlearning, sometimes that Venn diagram is a circle. Okay. And sometimes, like, letting go is you're really unlearning something. And learning is a process, right? So often we don't just like know something, you have to learn it. You have to connect it to something you already know and kind of do some discovery and figure out what it's about and how it works, right? And like why it's important. And you're learning, it's a process. So is unlearning. Unfortunately, it's not like cramming for an exam where you can just like take an unhelpful thought pattern and just nix it out of your mind. So often we have to practice unlearning that and relearning something else and a different way to do things. So making the decision to let go is so powerful, but then similar to making the decision to start something new, we get to remind ourselves, sometimes over and over and over, if you're anything like me, that you're letting that go and you're not doing that anymore or you're not picking it back up, right? Because when you set something down and it's still there, it can be really tempting to pick it back up. It's like your phone, right? If you're trying to like limit your screen time, but your phone's always right there, you're gonna pick it back up, okay? So you either make the decision to not pick it up over and over and over again, right? Or maybe you can put in some tools and strategies, like putting your phone in a different room, right? And so sometimes there's things that we put in place to help us leave that thing alone and to leave it in the past. And so with the new year, I love the opportunity to really think about and just be intentional of what you want your life to look like. I think that's why I get so excited is like you can design your life. Not we don't always have the privilege, right, to like design it exactly how we want immediately. But in my experience, almost always there's some little thing that we can design and that we can be intentional about in our life and we can start there. And then so often that takes us down a path, right, that opens other doors. So I also want to take this moment to encourage you, like, if you're discouraged about not being able to make all the changes you want right now, focus on what you can and start there. Because I can tell you from my experience, like trying to do an overhaul and change everything about you overnight is exhausting and overwhelming. And then, like, for me, I kind of forgot I was doing it, right? There was like too many things. I was like, "Meh," and then I kind of like reverted back. Okay. But what has been like sustainable change for me is starting small, doing one thing at a time and taking those baby steps until, like, okay, that's built into the routine. Oh, actually, I'm this kind of person now. Like, I journal regularly. I journal more often than I don't journal. Holy cow, like I'm doing it, right? And then maybe before then, right? Or maybe then you're ready to, okay, let's do something new now. So if you're discouraged or like frustrated that you don't have like the privilege or the capability or the resources maybe to like do all the changes you want to do right now, I want to try to encourage you to don't be discouraged, because so often you want to just start with one thing anyway. You want to start small anyway in order for it to like be sustainable. So, I love this opportunity to be intentional about designing our lives, what we want our lives to look like, what little change we want to start with, what routines we want to tackle, right? And things we want to plug into our lives to help us become the person we want to be. And just really being intentional about what do I want to start fresh in 2026? What do I want to bring into 2026? What do I want to leave in 2025? And then how can I empower myself to follow through with my actions, to follow through on those decisions day after day after day in 2026, so I can kind of stay on this track and get myself to where I'm excited about being. I can't wait to see where you decide to go, what you decide to do, what you make out of 2026. I am so proud of you. I will talk to you in the new year. And until then, keep becoming fierce.